for your presentation?
Hmm?
Do you need internet for your presentation?
Apparently.
Then the network is down, as far as I know.
Yeah, I'm tethering now.
Yeah.
It's time zone, isn't really time zone, so there's no EST changes and it has no relationship to UTC.
It's off.
So you can use it when you don't want EST changes, but you don't care about the local localization. Maybe you don't care about that. Right, but when you do that, the time stays the same because there's no, as opposed to when you convert from true real time zone, the time changes to reflect the time zone change. Yeah.
Great.
Yep.
I had it off for. I know.
You switched it off. Okay.
Yes, that's what I said.
Whenever you're ready. You're live streaming already.
Yeah, I know.
So I'm gonna wait that like see if there's some Indian vegetarian yeah.
It's very hot.
Yeah, it's.
You want to kill it?
It's Hi, I'm Ashley Willis. This is called Calendars Hate the Living. I'll try to make it quick since technical problems. So there's 3 iCalendar specifications. The first one is vCalendar version 1. It's a Versit consortium specification, whatever that means. It's from September, 53 pages. 26 months later, they came out with version 2, renamed it to iCalendar. It's RFC 2445. It ballooned in size to 148 pages, and then 11 years later, they updated it. The vCalendar objects are identified by this. iCalendar uses the same format, but the version is different. So let's talk about vCalendar. Why should I care about version 1? Hopefully you shouldn't. It's horrible, and hardly anybody uses it. It looks like brainstorm notes by people who never coded. But supposedly, Data iCal says it supports it, so Data iCal to the rescue. Not so fast. It allegedly could handle vCalendar since 2006, and that was the last commit having to do with vCalendar. But I ran into a few problems. It assumed that vCalendar has the same properties as iCalendar. There's also a recursive call for the 1.0 flag that was not being set when it would recurse deeper into the fields. So 6 years later, I submit a patch that fixes this. That's pretty much a sign that you should never run into this. It's got several properties not in version 2, 4 different alarms. P-alarm is a binary from an FTP site and run it. That's brilliant. And it's got a, let's see. So the spec for vCal has horrible formatting, and a huge chunk of the spec is missing from here. Just it's the file was last modified in '97, so it's been that way. How many years is that? A lot. So it was a guessing game trying to figure out the parts that were missing. I had to infer things. These various parts that cover events and to-do properties were just missing. Exception rule, that's a doozy. Some of these, like, the reminders are all like the other ones. But instead of it being just missing, it was replaced with a different block of text. 2.32, the attendee section through date time. That is, you're not supposed to read that. But that whole block of text is what was inserted instead. And it was a repeat of stuff that had come earlier. Fun fact, later I discovered that the spec is available in Word 6, rich text, and PostScript formats, and it actually has beautiful formatting. Whereas what I was looking at and found the first time was just walls of text. And even when you get to the BNF, it's just horrible. It makes RFCs look awesome. A lot of the fields here are, there's a number of fields that are the same in version 1 and version 2, including the R rule, which is for recurrences, repeating events. The R rule is completely different and lots of fun. So moving on to iCalendar, that's version 2. Here's a screenshot from the Wikipedia page I found a couple weeks ago. Sure. Some random edit. So recurrence rules, they're a recurring nightmare. I was speaking with Obra, who wrote Data iCal originally, about recurrence rules, joked that they're Turing complete, and he said probably so. 14.5% of the RFC covers recurrence rules, which is 24 pages. There's 4 different properties, which is the key or field that make up recurrence rules, plus the start date. All of those equals the recurrence set. In addition to that, there's a recurrence ID. I have no idea what that does. So here's the R rule from the RFC. It's a whole bunch of text. I probably don't have time to read it. But you've got the DT start, the R rule, the R date, the X date, and the X rule. You need to combine all of those to figure out what the recurrence set is. All of them can repeat multiple times except for DT start. That's more of the description of R rule, in addition to, the technical breakdown. It's kind of the comment folding white space of calendars. There are 8 pages of examples. They don't even cover R date or X rule. There's one example with X date, there's the example, repeat every Friday the 13th forever. They have it starting on the 2nd, which is not the 13th, and so there's a X date, which says exclude this date. And then it says to recur monthly, by day Friday, by month day the 13th. And those are the examples of the first few dates it will generate. So for frequency, here, there's yearly, monthly, weekly, daily, hourly, minutely, or even secondly. Why you want a recurring event every second? There's a count or until, so it can end at a certain date, or it can happen 10 times. And then there's modifiers by month, by week number, on to by second. And you can have any combination of those. There's an interval, so if you say interval is 3, and by month, or frequency is monthly, it will go every 3rd month. There's week start, which will change the day on which you say the week starts. So you can say the week starts on Wednesday. And then there's by set position. So if you've got a recurrence rule that has several values, like for an entire week, you can say, I just want the 3rd one, the 3rd instance of this rule. So this is the last work day of the month. Frequency is monthly, by day, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. By set position, -1. It's a great rule to remind me to pay rent, because I work with the guy who hired me, I rent from, so I could just hand him a check. OS X Calendar and Outlook on Mac can create this rule, but iOS Calendar, Google, Android can't. Google will understand it though. Haven't tested anything else. Here it is in Google, pay rent. It says this event has a recurrence rule that cannot be edited in Google Calendar. The X rule is an exclusion rule. It's just like the recurrence rule, but the opposite. It excludes the dates and times matching this pattern. So you can have a really complicated pattern describing when something should recur. You can have multiple ones of those, and then you can have the opposite to exclude some subset of those dates. The R date and X date, it's a bit simpler. You can specify exact dates to exclude or a range of dates. Then the recurrence ID, as I said, I have no idea what this actually means, but there's an example for you. Apparently, you can have something where you go backwards in recurrence. This is in prior. I don't know why you'd want to do that. So, version 2.0, 2.0. This is RFC 5545. When they came out with it, they did not change the version number. So, that's brilliant. This is 11 years later. It's got some of the same errors as found in the original RFC. Mainly, but it does have an appendix which lists changes. There's the said that you can only have one recurrence rule in a recurrence set and not 15 of them. It said that the date format of the end must match the start. It removed the exclusion rule, so you can't have a set that another complicated set to exclude things. It also removed the this and prior from the recurrence ID, which is great. Another great thing it removed was the procedure in alarms, because you could still do that in version 2. You can have an alarm that runs code from the web on your local computer. Brilliant. It removed multiple recurrence instances as well, so whose version is it anyway? As far as like, which version 2 is this? It's a great question. The frequency in version 2.2 can be in any place. There's issues with, you can have recurrence rules in UTC time, like without a time zone component. That was required in the original spec. But we're still stuck with RFC 822 for email, and that's from August 82. So lastly, there's floating versus absolute time, which was covered in the previous talk. There was some talk on that. So that's a floating time. It's just in whatever local time zone you happen to be in at the time. UTC time with a Z at the end, and then the local time with a time zone reference. So this is in Eastern time. Okay, and I have a client that we had a client that currently all of their calendars in their database is stored in floating time, and the time zone they change in their interface for the email. And so if they change their time zone in email, then all of their calendars change. And so if they set a calendar at Eastern at 9 a.m. and they switch to Pacific, well, that's still at 9 a.m., but it's Pacific. When we move them to Zimbra, Zimbra completely ignores floating time and says everything must have a time zone with it. So you have to pick and force it to whatever time zone they have set on the previous server, which could be completely wrong and they never even noticed because things still just worked. We have not migrated them yet to us. We will be doing that as soon as I get back. So hopefully that all works out. And that's it. Went a bit quick, flew through some things because of issues, but any questions?
Have you looked at the daytime event iCal module?
Yes. Yeah, that I have definitely used that in dealing with calendars. So, especially with converting from the version 1 to version 2. I talked a bit about the recurrence rules for version 2. In version 1, they are as complicated as they are in version 2. They are completely and utterly different in version 1. And Data iCal does not handle recurrence rules. It makes sure it looks like valid stuff, but it won't interpret it for you and tell you what it means. So. Anything else? No? Okay. Did you? Okay.
Thank you.